UC Davis is taking a 6-game win streak up to Cheney to face Eastern Washington. It's homecoming for the Eagles. Will they pull off their second top 25 upset in a row? Welcome to This Week in Big Sky Football.
3, 2, 1, go!
Hello and welcome to This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. UC Davis quarterback Miles Hastings is coming off a career performance against Cal Poly. He and the Aggies head up to Eastern Washington this weekend for our game of the week. That Aggie defense has forced a turnover in 7 straight games, but will they be able to do enough to slow down the leading receiver in the Big Sky in Efton Chisholm III? Joining me now to discuss this matchup is head coach of the Eagles, Aaron Best. Coach, thanks so much for joining me. Last week, you called the game against Sacramento State bizarre. However, you walked away with a conference win over a ranked opponent. What does a victory like that do for team morale?
Well, I think any win obviously puts you in a different frame of mind. Results drive believability in sport and life. And we've been close many times this year. Going on the road, chasing our first Big Sky victory this year certainly boosts morale. Going to do our third game, now bringing it back home against UC Davis, who again is littered with a great team, high offensive firepower. So we got our work cut out for us. So we can't rest our laurels too long.
We'll get into that matchup with UC Davis in just a minute. You mentioned they have a lot of great players. You yourself also have a handful of great players, one of those being Efton Chisholm III, the leading receiver in the Big Sky Conference. He's in his final year in Cheney. He wants to be remembered as an Eagle legend, so he said himself. What has he meant to your program over his tenure there?
When he came in my office after last year, knowing he had other opportunities for a senior year somewhere else, he said that exact thing. I want to end where I started. Gave me an opportunity. I'm trying to make the most of it, and I want to live in the same halls as Cooper Kupp at an institution that's known for wide receiver play. So that spoke volumes, and that's who he is as a person, and he carries that onto the field. And I'm just trying to take in every day, honestly, with him the next couple months to truly appreciate what he stood for, what he will stand for, and what he's meant to this program and this football team for the last 4 years.
Of course, the guy throwing Efton Chisholm the ball is quarterback Kekoa Vesperis. He ranks in the top 5 in the conference in passing yards, 0 interceptions this season. How would you assess his decision-making under center?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is efficiency. At the end of the day, his decision-making up to this point this season has been tremendous. Another year under Coach Chapin's tutelage has allowed him to grow in more areas than just yards.
Looking ahead to your matchup with UC Davis, your offense is about to face their defense, who has had a turnover in 7 straight games. They have 3 defensive touchdowns this season. What is the best way for your guys to practice ball security and prepare for this matchup?
First off, UC Davis's defense a lot of times keeps everything in front of themselves. So they're seeing all the action. They don't get let things go behind them. It's hard to create and force turnovers when people are behind you. Everybody's got to be at least in front or if not on the side. They get to the quarterback when they need to. They're a slow you down, run defense outfit, but they're a keeping in front of you pass outfit. They're not going to get beat by beating themselves. They do a good job taking it away. We've done a good job possessing. Something's got to give on Saturday.
You can't talk about UC Davis without mentioning the reigning offensive player of the year in Lan Larison. He has accounted for over 1,000 yards of the Aggies offense this season. How do you game plan for a guy who can get it down on the ground or through the air?
He's a difficult player to scheme against because they put him in so many different positions, and he's one of the best players that I've witnessed in person on film this league has ever had. He just gets it. Football IQ out of this world. You can just tell from a distance that he's not only able to do what they ask him to do, but then go above and beyond with his intangibles. He's a tough tackle, got great speed. And again, the hardest thing to scheme is where he's going to be. He's located different spots. He just wills his team to victory by what he does on the field from my perspective, but I'm sure off the field and in his teammates' perspective. Got to meet him last summer. Incredible human being, not a loud talker, but I'll tell you what, his ball is loud enough for us.
Up next, hear from head coach of the UC Davis Aggies, Tim Plough. Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm your host, Megan Robinson, joined now by the head coach of the UC Davis Aggies, Tim Plough. Coach, last time we spoke, you said you didn't think your team was playing their best football yet. How close do you think they are now, a few weeks later, they are reaching their full potential?
Yeah, I thought this was the first week where we played consistently at the level I think we can play at, and it was a great moment for them. They've been pushing forward. Can they be consistent enough to put a bunch of drives together and play for a complete game? So I know we were really happy with the outcome on Saturday. Not so much with winning the game as much as just us playing well for the entirety of a football game. And hopefully that builds some momentum, which we're going to need as we go to the end of the conference here.
Quarterback Miles Hastings went 27 for 30 for 458 yards, 4 touchdowns, and only played in 3 quarters. What word would you use to describe his performance?
When I think of Miles, I just think of resiliency. I mean, he's a very resilient player. He's been through a lot in his career, ups and downs. I'm just so proud of him and happy that he's having these moments and people can see how talented and special he really is. He really makes this thing go. His accuracy, his ability to read the defense, get the ball out on time. Hopefully, again, he's built some confidence, get some momentum going. Because if he's playing like that, I think we're a tough team to stop.
Lan Larson seems to have a highlight reel-worthy play every single game. This week, of course, it was that hurdle for the touchdown. How would you rate his overall athleticism and his ability to pull these rabbits out of his hat, so to speak?
I think every week, we get to the end of the game and every week there's something we're watching on film. We're like, gosh, how in the world did he do that? It's something I think as the NFL scouts come by every week, they talk about that a lot, that you're so impressed with his balance, his athleticism. And I think what he's proven is, he's got over 1,000 yards total. So he's our leading receiver right now in receptions. He's obviously having a great year running the football. When you can have that type of skill set at that position, it just creates a lot of problems for defenses. So we've been able to get him the football in different ways, knowing that a lot of teams are trying to take him out of the run game. And for him to be able to show that athleticism in his route running and get him out in space and then to make people miss, that's what makes him, in my opinion, the best player in the country.
On the defensive side of the ball, Rex Connors' pick 6 marks your 3rd defensive touchdown of the season. You've had a turnover in every game so far, 7 straight games with a turnover. Why is your defense so successful at forcing fumbles or interceptions?
The first thing I would say is it's something we practice, every week. We practice the fundamentals and techniques that it takes to create turnovers. Coach Coombs and the defensive staff do a great job schematically at creating confusion for the quarterbacks on the back end and also creating situations where we can get multiple tacklers at the ball. And those are normally the things that are going to lead to turnovers in a game. So I think that we're doing a good job of mixing those two things. And then as for the scoring, we've made an emphasis from the start when I got here, like if you want to win a conference championship, if you want to compete in the playoffs, your defense needs to turn those turnovers into points. And so they take a lot of pride in trying to get the football and get in the end zone with it.
You will be facing the best receiver in the Big Sky this week when you head to Cheney to take on Eastern Washington and Efton Chisholm III. What is the key to trying to limit their big plays?
He is special. He's a great route runner. I think they do a great job of moving him into different spots within the formation. So he can line up in the slot, he can line up outside, he can line up in the backfield. And that just tells me he's a smart football player. We're going to have to find some ways, hopefully, to limit him, knowing that we probably won't take a guy like that out of the game completely. They just do a great job offensively of getting their playmakers the ball, and he's a tremendous player.
Dante Sacheret played his way into the record books with his 6th touchdown performance in the Vikings win over Idaho State. The Big Sky Offensive Player of the Week joins me after the break.
Now Sacheret wants to run. He's doing some damage. He's got the first down, and now he's gone down the far sideline. One man to beat. They won't get him, and Dante Sacheret will take it 62 yards.
Dante Sacheret threw for 216 yards and ran for another 202 yards to become the first Portland State quarterback and 3rd Big Sky quarterback to record a 200-200 game. Dante, how does it feel to make history?
It was kind of surreal. I didn't know until after the game, our guy, Mike Lund, had came up to me and he was like, first ever to do 200 and 200. And like, when he said it, I didn't really register yet. And I was like, cause big win, first win of the season. So I was so hyped about that. And then when I thought about it, I'm like, oh wow, that's I haven't heard too many people getting that, so that was pretty cool.
Coach Barnum said you were fantastic. They sent 6 players at you and you run for a 62-yard touchdown. That stuff doesn't happen on EA Sports. What's your reaction to your coach's comments?
It's kind of funny, you know, but at the same time, he expects me to do stuff like that. So like when I do it, it's regular to him. So that's, yeah.
Nearly 3/4 of your rushing yards came on 3 explosive runs. What was their defense giving you that allowed you to be so dominant on the ground?
Yeah, like you said earlier, they were sending 6 guys at me pressure wise and then playing man behind it. So everyone is locked on the man. And then in those situations, they usually forget about the quarterback. So when they blitz and I was able to find a crease and sneak out of there was no one there for me.
How much credit do you have to give your O-line for creating those creases that allowed you to run for over 200 yards?
Yeah, you know, they get all the praise in the world for I look good on paper, but they're the ones doing all the real work that no one really sees down in the trenches. So I couldn't thank them enough, you know, picking up their guys, getting into their gaps, letting me being able to go out there and run.
I think it was your first touchdown. I counted you broke at least 3 tackles on that run. What's going through your mind as you're running downfield trying to elude all the defenders?
Yeah. Well, first it was 3rd and long, so I'm like, all right, in my head, I'm like, I got to get the first down. So when I take off running, make the first guy miss, I'm like, all right, I think I'm at the first down mark. And then when I get spun around and I'm still on my feet, I'm like, all right, I got to keep running. And then I just take it down the sideline, make another guy miss, and then going for the touchdown.
You were responsible for all 6 of Portland State's touchdowns in that game, 3 on the ground, 3 through the air. What challenges does your ability to get it done either way present to defenses?
I feel like, you know, definitely hard. You know, they have to get ready for my legs and my arm, trying to contain me in the pocket. But then at the same time, I can drop back and throw. So that dual threat quarterback is always tough for defenses to try to figure out.
The dual threat quarterback has kind of emerged even more so over the years. You see it with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray. You are one yourself. What are the keys to excelling as a dual threat quarterback?
Keeping the defense on their toes, not knowing what's going to come next. Like I said, I could throw it, I could run it, I could get out the pocket, make a throw, or keep running. So having those options makes it difficult on the defense to try to hone in on one thing.
How do you use this performance to build momentum going into the back half of Big Sky play?
Yeah, try to build on it. You know, we try to tell our guys 1 week at a time, try to be 1-0, carrying over. You know, first win, got a lot of team amped up. So being able to keep that composure and move it on to the next week and then try to do the same thing.
Still to come, how NAU alum Khalil Dorsey's perseverance turned into a career in the NFL.
Khalil Dorsey didn't choose to play for NAU because it gave him the best shot at the NFL. In fact, he hadn't even thought about playing professionally until his senior year of college. Dorsey is proof that you can go from FCS to having success at the next level. However, his journey from Flagstaff to Detroit was anything but linear.
The challenge is always in the back of your mind that you're at the FCS school and it's not like you're always watching the bigger teams, like, oh, they're ranked and they're in the FBS, like they get more attention and stuff like that. And you think like, just because you're a little guy, it doesn't matter who you go against, like you're never going to make it type of thing. So that was always in the back of your mind.
The doubt might have been in Khalil Dorsey's mind, but it didn't show up in his play.
Senior year, it went pretty well. In terms of like PBUs and tackles, I had, I think, like 60 tackles on the season. As a corner, that's unheard of. So I thought, at least I can get a shot, of anything. It doesn't even matter. I had to get an agent. I didn't know when you sign for an agent that your college career is done. So that was a big decision. And then once I did that, it was like all my eggs were in that basket.
Dorsey's final down of college football came in January 2020 at the Hula Bowl. He began training for his shot in the NFL shortly after. Less than a week before his pro day, COVID would change everything.
They gave me a call and said that they had canceled our pro day, and I was just heartbroken. So what we did is just like record everything. So I did my bench press with the place that he had, and then I did my 40-yard with like a timer in front of the camera. I did a whole bunch of things. So I would say it was difficult, but God always had a plan.
Dorsey signed with the Ravens as an undrafted free agent. He played in 6 games before a shoulder injury landed him on injured reserve.
feel like it was difficult because you're in your head, especially coming back towards it. At the beginning, you're not thinking that. They're just like, you're injured, you're worried about that. But then once you start getting the shoulder back, it's like gaining that confidence and tackling, especially because it's your shoulder, and tackling, try to get pass breakups and stuff, and thinking of like, your coaches are thinking, am I an asset or a liability?
How did you end up with the Detroit Lions?
So we had 2 years with the Ravens. Then I got released. I went to the New York Giants. Then after that, I got released, was sitting on the couch for like, I think it was 13 weeks. And then the week I started applying to jobs, just because I was bored at home, I got a call from the Lions, and that's when they put me on their practice squad. Finished out that season with them, and then that next year, after everything was said and done, after 3 preseason games, they signed me again, and I was just grateful.
On October 14th, 2023, after nearly a year on the practice squad, Dorsey was activated by the Lions.
I full-heartedly believe that it doesn't matter where you go. There's a lot of people in the league that come from different places, FCS, HBCUs, Division II. If you can play ball, you don't gotta transfer to somewhere else. If you can play ball where you're at, ball out, and they will come and find you.
When you think about your journey to the NFL and the career that you've had, what part makes you the most proud?
I would say my family is saying I know you can do it type of thing. Like, instead of them being like surprised at it, it was just like, I knew you could do it, just because, that journey was hard, and they saw how long it took for me to get there.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm Megan Robinson. This week, the conference gave us come-from-behind wins, record-breaking performances, and a #1 team in the country. Here's what you might have missed. Idaho defender Alyssa Peters secured her place in the record books when she tallied her 28th career assist. That is the most in Big Sky Conference history. Montana soccer remains unbeaten at home after posting a win and a draw over the weekend. On the court, Idaho State volleyball remains at the top of the conference after a thrilling 5-set victory over defending Big Sky champs and preseason favorites Weber State. UNC enters Week 8 on a 3-match win streak. After wins at Portland State and at Sacramento State, the Bears remain a perfect 8-0 on the road. Eastern Washington has also been finding success away from home. They swept the Treasure State with back-to-back wins over Montana State and Montana. Plus, NAU volleyball debuted their alternate identity AstroJack uniforms Thursday night. It was the second of 6 appearances across 4 sports for Bluey the Space Ox. NAU cross country continues to reign supreme. A victory at the Notre Dame Invitational moved their women into sole possession of first place in national polls. That's what happened this week around the Big Sky. Joined now by a familiar face to the Big Sky Conference, Sam Herder of Hero Sports. Sam, appreciate you taking time to chat Big Sky football. The conference play has been unpredictable so far this season, to say the least. What have you learned watching the Big Sky over the last few weeks?
Yeah, it's been a very entertaining conference, and I think Montana State has established itself as the top team, and I think UC Davis has kind of started living up to its potential. Some other teams are kind of hard to figure out. Northern Arizona is hard to figure out, and Weber State is hard to figure out. There's a little more uncertainty in the middle of the conference standings than maybe some years past.
Which team do you think is a dark horse to make a late playoff push here?
Northern Arizona is kind of lingering, right now as a potential team that could make the playoffs, because I think Montana State and UC Davis are both positioned pretty well to make the postseason. I think Montana can get in there as well. Idaho has had a brutal start to the season, just schedule-wise, and that their schedule now eases up, and so I think the pathway is there for Idaho to also get into the postseason.
Montana State on the road to face Portland State. Montana State, of course, coming off that dominant top 10 win against Idaho. And then on the flip side, the Portland State Vikings, they have Dante Sacheray, National Player of the Week for his 200 rushing, 200 passing yard performance, 6 touchdowns. Seems like it could potentially be a trap game in a sense for the Bobcats. Who do you like in this one?
Just with how Montana State is playing right now, especially their defense will travel well. Offensive line being dominant, that always travels well. So I think you have to favor the Cats. But you're right in that this could be a trap game. I think Montana State is going to be too much to lose this one.
And finally, our game of the week, UC Davis going into the Inferno to face Eastern Washington on their homecoming. Who are you taking in this matchup?
Yeah, I'll take UC Davis, but I think it could be a pretty entertaining back and forth game. Two really good quarterbacks as well, with this Vesperis going up against Hastings. And Hastings has had a huge role in UC Davis taking that next step as a team. So I think he's elevated his play as well at quarterback.
Sam, appreciate you taking the time to chat Big Sky football. You'll be back with me next week for the mid-season FCS All-In Show.
All right, thanks. Thank you for having me.
It is shaping up to be another good one in the Inferno. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of This Week in Big Sky Football. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. I will see you all next week.